So you've been playing with the idea to buy an Acura NSX, but will it be a financial disaster due to the high depreciation rates? Or is it actually a sensible alternative compared to default choices that are offered by most popular supercar brands? To answer this question, we're going to investigate the good and the bad of the NSX's depreciation trend and compare it to other supercars. Let's dive into the data. Over here we have in orange the US price trend for the Type S and in blue for the base model. You can see that the price difference between the two models is enormous, so focus first on the base model. Looking at the trend, we can see that it's highly correlated to the market trend. Car values soared during the pandemic, topped in the first half of 2022 and have been declining ever since. The current price median is $138,000, and for this you'll get a car with approximately 13,500 miles. However, as you can see from the confidence intervals, prices fluctuate between roughly $132,000 and $140,000. Now looking at the price decrease, we can see that values are down by 7.4% or $11,100 compared to 1 year ago, and that this is 9.8% or $15,000 compared to September 2022. Now this aggregate data only tells us part of the story, so let's zoom in a little bit further to get a better understanding of what's actually happening in this market. Over here we have the price development broken down by the different mileage categories, and this reveals a few interesting additional insights. For the cars that do not fall in the lowest mileage category, we can see that the largest drop occurred during the second half of 2022, and that values have been relatively stable throughout 2023. The cars in the lowest mileage category continue to decline and only stabilized in the last 3 months, but this can be the result of chance. For the overall depreciation rate, this means that we're looking at an average of minus 5.8% compared to last year. And I can already reveal that this is a good result. Now a problem with the NSXs is that they can be for sale for a long time. It is a niche choice after all. But there are premature signs that the popularity of the base model is actually increasing. And this of course helps to support the low depreciation rates. Over here we have the percentage of unsold cars that are listed for sale for longer than 3 months. The higher this number, the longer the cars are listed for sale, the lower the scarcity level in the market and the higher the downward price pressure. We can see for example that in March 2023, 65% of the base models that were listed for sale were also listed for sale in December 2022. And this is an extremely high number. It might be among the highest ones that I've seen on the channel. However, that also marked the top. Cars have been selling quicker and quicker, and currently only 31% of the cars that are listed for sale were also for sale in September. And this is a lot less than the 49% at the same time 1 year ago, and supports the relatively stable prices in the most recent months. Moreover, the rate of 31% is on par with many other popular sports and supercars. Now also the discount rates for these cars are much lower than they used to be. We can see that, right now, cars that do not sell after 3 months are discounted by an average rate of 3%, and this used to be 5% 1 year ago, with some cases going down to minus 6%. Again, a clear indication that the market is stronger than 1 year ago. Now the situation in the Type S market is a tad different. Looking at the price trend, we can see that some cars were advertised at $300,000. MSRP for a car with some options was approximately $200,000, so $300,000 is a stretch. People who paid this are then also looking at a significant loss, but I guess they knew what they were getting themselves into. As you can see from the confidence interval, there were also cars listed for the actual MSRP, but I'm not sure if they were actually available or if they were just listed to bait people. Dealers use this strategy for example in the Corvette C8 market. In any case, prices quickly fell from $300,000 to approximately $250,000 to $260,000 and are currently at $260,000, a reduction of roughly $40,000 or 13.2%. Now what's interesting here is that the prices appear to have been flat since March, and in a way this is similar to the base market, right? A drop in the depreciation rate, but there's a catch here. Type S's are extremely rare and they don't appear to be selling well. Looking at the percentage of unsold cars after 3 months split by the new and the used cars, we can see that a few new cars that are listed for sale actually have been listed for sale for almost a year. These cars are then also listed at high prices, and if you've been scanning the market, I'm sure that you've seen them listed for sale. Also, the situation in the used market is not that great. In the beginning of the year, we can see low rates, but this is based on 2 to 3 cars. As supply increases, we can see a bit more reliable numbers, and these show that 50% of the listed used cars in June were also listed in March, and that's quite a high number. The situation improved a bit as the rate decreased, but this trend needs to be interpreted in combination with the discount rates on unsold inventory. This namely shows that unsold cars are currently discounted by an average of 3%, but that it can be as much as 15%. And this is the highest discount rate that I've seen on this channel. You can see that the rate fluctuated a bit since March, but that it was never low. So if you are in the market for a Type S, you have a strong negotiation position if the car has been for sale for more than 3 months. Now the Type S market is quite a difficult market to analyze because it's so small, but the inventory data that we just saw showed us that prices are not that strong. And this also means that the flattening of the aggregate trend that we saw earlier is likely to be the result of cars not selling. I think it's unlikely that it represents an actual bottoming of the prices. This is also supported by the car's mileage developments. Type S's that are listed for sale have between 0 and 250 miles on the clock. Cars will likely nosedive under $260,000 once you add a few thousand miles. So summing up everything that we just saw, it seems to be so that base models are doing relatively well, but that Type S's are in a difficult spot value-wise. But to know this for sure, we need to compare the depreciation rates to other cars. Over here we have the US year-over-year price changes for almost all cars that feature on my channel. On the horizontal axis we have the price change compared to last year in percentages, and on the vertical axis we have the number of cars to which this change applies. Now the average decrease during last year was 7.7%, and most cars lost between 12 and 3%. So this means that base models lost slightly less than the average. Remember that the mileage adjusted decrease was 5.8%, so it turns out that this is an excellent result. We can't say the same for the Type S. With a loss of 13.2%, it scores significantly worse than the average decrease. This is of course no surprise. It's a relatively new car and they anyway tend to fall on the left hand side of the average. But let's make this a little bit more concrete, shall we? If you're planning to purchase an NSX, you perhaps also looked at McLaren's or an Audi R8. So how does it hold up against those two? Over here we have the price trend for the NSX, 570S Coupe and second generation pre-facelift Audi R8 V10. Now this reveals that there are a lot of similarities between the models. All of them increased during the pandemic, topped in 2022 and have been decreasing ever since. The NSX is down by 5.8%. We saw this earlier, right? The 570S, however, lost 9.4%, significantly more. Now the R8 market is a special case due to the last data point. The market composition changed significantly in the most recent 3 months. The median mileage increased from 24 to 44,000 miles, and in a market that is relatively small, the impact of this change is large. The price decrease that you see over here is then also the effect of the mileage increase. We're looking at a drop of 10.2% compared to last year. Adjusting for this change, we're looking at a drop of 10.2% compared to last year. I didn't have time to update the graph so that it would show the mileage adjusted versions of the trend, but I think you get the idea, right? Let's make now one final comparison, and this will be a comparison to the 991.1 Turbo and Turbo S's. We can see again that the shape of the trend is very similar, and that the NSX's, again, didn't do too bad. Turbos lost 9.3% between September of this year and September of last year, while it was 7.1% for the Turbo S's. Both of these numbers are adjusted for changes in the market composition and higher than for the NSX. Putting all of these yearly price changes into one graph, we can see indeed that the NSX didn't do so bad. With 5.8%, it lost significantly less than some of its peers. Of course, there is some uncertainty in these numbers, as you saw from the confidence intervals in the previous graphs, but both the comparison to the market and to some specific graphs shows that the NSX didn't do worse than any other car. On the contrary, There's even one other thing that works in favor of the NSX, it's the price point. The 570s, R8s and 991.1 turbos all have higher mileages than the NSX. A 991.1 Turbo S, for example, will set you back $136,000, and for this you'll get a 2014 car with 28,000 miles. A $138,000 NSX, however, will be from model year 2014 and has a mileage of 13,000 miles. Let's wrap up and conclude after all of those numbers. You've been playing with the idea to buy an Acura NSX, but will it be a financial disaster due to the high depreciation rates, or is it actually a sensible alternative compared to the default choices that are offered by other supercar brands? Now when it comes to the Type S, I think it's fair to conclude that you should steer away from this car if you care about values. The price uncertainty in this market is high, but we saw that the yearly depreciation rate was higher than the market average, that the cars are listed for sale for a relatively long time, and that the discount rates are high. In other words, if you decide to buy this car, you better do so with your eyes wide open and factor in the possibility of a significant depreciation during your ownership period. But when it comes to the base model, I think it's fair to conclude that there's no all-encompassing reason as to why you should avoid this car. We saw that the depreciation rate was slightly lower than for the market, that the listing times decreased, that the discount rates are at a normal level, and that they're good value for money compared to cars that offer similar performance. In other words, from a value perspective, I think it's a sensible alternative to the more popular choices. And with that we arrived at the end of this video. Now if you enjoy this data-driven way of analyzing car markets but would like to see a video for a different car, head over to my channel. Over there you'll find market updates for a large variety of cars. Can't find the car you're looking for? Let me know the name of the car down below in the commenting section. Once there are enough requests for a certain car, I'll make a video about it. As always, thank you for watching and I hope to see you next week for a new video.